Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now here I am to review a movie called The Promise. Now I already put up a review for this, but I had to take it down because there was a glitch in it which provided zero sound, so have to redo it. But I'm still very excited to talk about this movie because I want this review to be out there. I want this discussion about this movie to be out there because it's became a movie very important to me. This is a movie out of 2017. It's a couple of years old, but after watching it a few times, it's became literally like one of my newest favorite movies of all time. Like seriously, I really really enjoy this movie, and I really connect with it. Now, first thing I'll say before getting into the story is it stars both Christian Bale and Oscar Isaac. Now, how I first came across this was I was reading through a magazine. It was either Total Film or Empire, I forget which one, but about new release movies coming out and whatnot. And usually what I do when I read those magazines is I don't read them from cover to cover because I'm not interested in each and every thing that they have to say about everything, right? So I'll flip through, and if I see a picture or a movie or an article of something that's like, okay, I gotta read this, then I'll read that, and then or I'll just flip through, and then if I see pictures of stuff that like you don't have to read right this minute, but that just kind of strikes my interest, I'll take a mental note that it's there, and then once I'm done flipping through the whole magazine, I'll go back and check those ones out and whatever. And I just seen this picture. I didn't really pay too close attention to it. I didn't see exactly who was on it or anything, but there was just this picture of some people and stuff like that. I remember thinking it looked kind of cool. I'm going to maybe flip back to this, but then as I was flipping the page, the article below the picture I was just talking about said something like historical drama, historical fiction, whatever kind of a thing, starring Christian Bale and Oscar Isaac. And just seeing those two names there, I'm like, okay, now I got to read this whole article through. I got to find out what this is about, because both those two guys, like if I were to make a top 10 favorite actors list for YouTube, which I will, I might do actually. So I mean, no set time or anything, but in the future of the channel, I might do something like that. Both Christian Bale and Oscar Isaac would be on there. Christian Bale's been one of my favorite actors for a long time, and a powerhouse actor, been in some really great movies. Chooses and gets involved with some really interesting projects and stuff like that. And but most people that are into movies, like everybody knows Christian Bale, everybody knows how good of an actor he is. But Oscar Isaac, okay, this guy, he is an awesome actor. Okay, like he's right up there with DiCaprio, with Gyllenhaal, with all those guys that are have been acting for somewhat a long time, but are still just kind of in that middle point of where they could go in their acting. And I just think this guy's a really good actor. I've liked almost every movie he's been in. I've thought every performance he's delivered has been good, and really really works for the movies he's been in. And I just think Oscar Isaac's really he's one of the best actors out there working, in my opinion. So seeing these two guys in this movie, I had to check this out, and I didn't see it when it first came out because it wasn't at any of the in the new release section of any of the box stores around here, and it didn't come to our local movie theater or anything like that. So I probably ended up seeing it like mid 2018, maybe even early 2019 or something like that, a couple of years after it came out. But it was, and I found it where I found it. It wasn't a second-hand store, but it was sort of like a liquidation kind of store where they take stuff in that's either previously viewed or from other stores going out of business, or leftover stock and whatever. They buy up stuff like that. It was one of those kind of stores, and so it was one of those things where I was already interested. Like I was gonna have to get it anyway because of the actors in it. But when I looked at it, you know how as a people out there watching that are movie people can probably understand and relate to the same thing, that sometimes you see a movie and it's like you're not supposed to judge like movies and books by their cover and stuff like that, but sometimes you just see a movie and there's just something about the cover of it, there's something about the artwork on the case, the pictures of the scenes on the back, the description of the movie, just the whole layout, the art of the whole packaging and everything, that just for some reason draws you to it. Like, you're just so curious about it that you at least have to check it out to see if you're right about how much you think it's, that you're connecting with it at the time. And sometimes you're wrong and sometimes you're right. I don't know. Like, throughout my life, there's just been some of the best movies. I mean, some of the worst movies too, granted, but some of the best movies that I've just randomly came across are like that. Like, I'm just looking for movies. There might even be one that's like, even has an actor I really like, or is, more mainstream, or more people are talking about, that's like, oh yeah, like I'm going to grab that one. And then you just randomly see this movie that for some reason it's like an older movie. It might not even have the actors in it that you like or whatever, but for some reason there's just something about it that you have to check it out, whether you buy it alongside the other one you were originally going to, or just choose to buy that one instead. Sometimes there's just these random movies that just for some reason you latch onto. And so like I said, some of the best movies I've seen in my life have been through that, like just randomly coming across these movies. And that was definitely, like, this was one of these movies, like there was something just about it that I had to check it out. And when I did, I was happy I did. Like, it's literally became one of my newest favorite movies of all time. It really has. I really, really enjoy this movie, and it's interesting and unique because it takes place in a very untold and different kind of part of history that you don't see covered a lot. And for one, so it deals with the Armenian genocide, and that is in those parts of the world, and it is very, very taboo. Like, that event is still covered up to this day, and people don't like talking about it. So making this movie and shedding light on that issue was almost an act of activism in a way. And they did a really good job with that. I mean, there on just the subject of that alone, like, there are some heavy scenes, especially near the end. It starts to get more into the heavier stuff near the ending of the movie, and it definitely is hard to watch at times, and it definitely has some really, really hard to watch moments that are hard to watch in it, and stuff that makes you think. It's not necessarily, though, it's not what the movie's meant to, it's not what you're meant to walk away with completely from the movie. Like, it's not supposed to be, like, the only thing that you latch onto, because it has a very intricate story to it anyways. And asides, because that is an event that is taboo and covered up, and not a lot of people talk about it, but it's still a unique time in history in general, because when you watch movies or read books or whatever about like historical fiction, like based on real stuff, but like with a fictional-esque kind of story interweaved into it, like say it's World War I, it takes place right there. It's right in the heat of the shit. Like, it's World War I. You're in the situation of World War I, but this is just before. And I mean, World War I does start, but this is like it's just before the it's just the very precursor of it. It's just before it starts, and then just the very, very early beginning stages of it before it was really truly the thing that it became. It was just the very beginning steps of it. So it's a unique time in general, which I like and admire seeing in movies. Like, I like when movies cover times like that aren't, just what everybody flocks to covering in movies. And so it's a romance movie, but what they do is it's a romance, it's a character study, it's a drama, and what they do is they perfectly interweave those storytelling tropes into this historical event that is unique in itself. So it really, really is, a very standalone movie, and Oscar Isaac's character, he's an apothecary and he wants to go become a medical student. And when the situation ends up breaking out, he was going to be drafted into the military, but he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't believe in any of the stuff. He wants to help people. He wants to be a doctor, and so lots of people in his that are part of his local Armenian heritage, they kind of band together. They're not necessarily draft dodgers, because they fight, but they're about to be drafted into the army, and they do not want to be a part of that, and they're about to be invaded, and they're about to be overtaken. So they have to band together, and they have to set up almost these makeshift little fortresses out in their hometowns and in the woods and stuff like that. And it's very similar to stuff that happened in World War II and that, right? Like with like the Jewish families that fled to the forest and you tried to survive as best they can, running away from the situations. It's very similar to that. Like that's what these people did. And so it covers that. But in the meantime, he falls in love because he in his hometown, he marries a woman through the dowry so that he can get his medical student degree. And then he ends up, so he leaves, and then he ends up falling in love with this artist, in who she is already with Christian Bale's character, who is an American journalist covering the situation over here, and so she kind of like she's in love with both these men, but in different ways, but you can tell that there's sort of something a little bit deeper between her and Oscar Isaac's character, and she's been with Christian Bale's character for a while, and they have some issues and stuff like that. But it's just sort of this unique love triangle that kind of happens there, and then just as it's starting to kind of become more of a character study and a drama amongst these people, but you're intrigued, like what's going to happen, how is this going to work out? Because all these people respect each other, but yet they're caught in this triangle of this romance, and so you're intrigued on that, and then. As that starts to progress, this historical event, this situation starts to unfold, and that brings people together and divides people and creates all of these completely new and interesting connections between people that would not have been there otherwise. Very bad, of course, at some points, but very. Some things very enlightening. I wouldn't necessarily say good because it's a horrible situation, but very, enlightening situations that come out of another situation that's really bad like that, right? So the movie is just really, 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 really heavy and deep that way. And both Oscar Isaac and Christian Bale do phenomenal performances in this, and especially Oscar Isaac. I mean, if they didn't have him playing the character in this movie, the movie probably actually wouldn't be as good. It was his take on this character just added a whole extra level to the whole storytelling process, and same with Bale's too. And the last thing I'll say about the movie is the scenery shots. Like, I'm a sucker for real backgrounds in the scenery shots in movies. I go on about this almost in every review. But the scenery shots in this movie are just stunning, phenomenal. Like all the shots of Hungary and Turkey, and it's just all of it really. Different kind of like it's just landscape shots that are really, really nice in general, but they just have just a really artistic take on the angles and what they place in the frame of the shots, and how they execute the whole thing, and the different times of day, and natural lighting that's used for these different environments just creates these really, really nice shots. Very, very nice shots. Like, seriously, like, if, again, that's another thing, if I were to make a list of just, like, the nicest shots in movies, this would be on that list. Many other movies, of course, too, but this would definitely be on the list. Very, very nice visual aesthetic to the scenery shots in this movie. And yeah, with that said, of course, I'm going to give this movie an A plus. So yeah, that is my review for the or for The Promise, everybody. I very highly recommend watching this movie. Check it out. Guaranteed you'll like. I've seen some reviews. A lot of people seem to dislike it too, which I don't really understand why. Well, I guess it's a movie that that speaks to me in an artistic format. I don't know if I can understand. There's not a lot of flaws in it for me, but I can understand why somebody that didn't connect so much to this kind of a story would pick out more sort of out of place things in the uniqueness per se of the story. But for me, my own personal just connection to the story just kind of didn't. I didn't notice or get into that as much. I didn't. If you know what I mean, I just didn't. That wasn't what jumped out at me, but I can understand that for some other people that may think that. But yeah, A plus for The Promise. Very much recommend checking it out. Thank you very much for watching, everybody.